Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
And we're ready to go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Jim Ahern.
Good morning, Rotarians. This morning's invocation is a series of 5 short quotes, and while the people speaking these quotes probably weren't specifically thinking about about Rotary and what we do, it sort of applies. So here's the first one: "Only a life lived for others is worth living," by Albert Einstein. "Everyone can be great because everyone can serve," Martin Luther King. The only ones among you who will be really happy are those who will have sought and found how to serve, Albert Schweitzer. "The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace," Mother Teresa. And the last quote is: "Somewhere inside of each of us, we hear a voice that is leading us in the direction of the person we wish to become. But it's up to each of us whether or not to follow." That's Pat Tillman. Amen.
Thank you, Jim. Our pledge and 4-way test this morning will be led by Father Joe Boisel.
Well, since I learned in second grade or kindergarten or whenever to stand for the pledge, I have to do that. So will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the 4-way test, the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Father Joe. And in the one-room school in South Dakota, we also stood every morning for the Pledge of Allegiance. And now our president, Marilyn Orr.
Top of the morning to you. How lucky are we to have today's meeting land on St. Patrick's Day? So congratulations to anyone who has at least 1% Irish within their DNA. We welcome our Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the meeting. The only meeting that we have scheduled this week is for our Gala Committee, who will be meeting this Friday, March 19th at noon via Zoom. I'd like to bring you up to speed about 2 items that were approved by our club board at our meeting last week. The board approved the establishment of 7 committees that will engage and support our club activities. Some of these committees will look very, very familiar. The Gala Committee, the Speakers Committee. Some will be broadened to cover a bit more. For example, membership becomes membership development and will be charged with not just recruiting, but engaging and retention. And others will bring together more of the areas of focus, like our youth services. So as this structure is developing, you'll be hearing more about this process. The board also approved a new member engagement and support project. We have been fortunate to bring in 5 wonderful, exciting, and talented new members since September. And we'd like to get them to know each other better. And one of the ways we're going to do that is through a freshman project. And President-elect Patrick Scheer will be working with them on this project. In support of it, the board will be giving them $500 as seed money to develop and to roll out the project of their choosing. And they are already hard at work. So we're expecting to hear good things. Now, this morning, we're back to talking with the Hudson Service Learning Club. So Jamie, can you please tell us what's going on up at school? And then also share which of the students are here with us today.
Morning, everyone. It is so great to see everyone on this. It's supposed to be a beautiful St. Patrick's Day, at least if Northeast Ohio weather doesn't change again sometime in the next 5 or 10 minutes, which I guess there's a pretty good chance of. So in terms of the service learning program right now, the new students, the new class was invited in a couple weeks ago. So we're constantly kind of thinking ahead, and we are so grateful that we'll have a new set of students as we enter next year, and we're very hopeful, especially with the virus rollout that was just announced yesterday by the governor, that anybody 16 and over will be eligible beginning at the end of the month. So we're really hopeful that come fall, and I'm a lot more hopeful now than I was even just a few weeks ago with that new announcement. That things, at least in service learning and hopefully in school, will look a whole lot more normal for next year. In terms of the group that we have now, I just can't say how grateful I am for them, because and the two young ladies I'll be introducing in just a minute are just two perfect examples of this, but just truly flexible and willing to kind of just go with whatever kind of comes their way. And this year's class has really just been remarkable with that, and just willing to kind of stop on a dime if needed, and things suddenly change, and smiles on their face, and they just kind of keep going with whatever that is. Just truly a remarkable group that we have, and this semester. So last semester, I don't know if Mr. Bach told you this, but we had a lot of in-person service days. Basically, we offered every single service day an opportunity to come in person, because we had so many kids who were remote, and we had a lot of sites that just for whatever reason didn't quite pan out. And so we had those in-person, kids were making blankets, or kids were going and cleaning up parks, and we did all sorts of things for them. This semester we had that as well, but this semester we've been able to partner up with DLM Food Pantry in Akron. And so basically they are our alternative site placement for anybody who needs a site. We have a lot of kids who can only serve one day a week because their site can only manage that, or we have kids who are still remote. And so they still have that opportunity to do some really powerful service in person. And I'm just really grateful to DLM for that consistency. In terms of the two young women I have today, just truly remarkable students I've gotten to know throughout the year. Emma has been, I think what's kind of so cool about her experience is she's one of the only students we have who actually volunteered at a hospice last semester. And granted, it was at an administrative office. It still shows the power of what she was able to do, even though she wasn't able to actually go and see patients. And I think that was really, really remarkable for her. And she also took advantage. She was only able to be in office one day a week. So she was one of those people who took advantage of some of those in-person service opportunities as well. And this semester, she's at Kent Social Services, which is another really remarkable place that has continued to serve a hot meal every day, 5 days a week. Has not closed down a single day since COVID started, and just really remarkable their dedication. Elena is also, so she's one of those students we had last semester who her site just didn't work out, and it was absolutely no fault of her own, unless she's just cursed with bad luck. And that might be the case. I'm not quite sure. I'll let her speak on that. But Elena was at Stewart's Caring Place last semester, which is just really an awesome place for cancer people struggling through cancer, as well as survivors, as well as their families. And it's just an awesome support for cancer people with cancer. And they were actually moving their location the first month of school, so they didn't have any of our students there And then our students went, and I think they went, and Elena can correct me, but I think they went twice. They went for 2 different weeks. And then the COVID numbers started shooting up, and they stopped allowing any volunteers. So she was at her consistent site for about 2 weeks or so last semester. And yet she came in twice a week, every time, big smile under that mask, I think. Sure looked that way. And just her attitude. And I'm kind of, I know this sounds bad, but I'm kind of grateful that she was one of those kids who did have trouble with her sight, because I got to know her pretty well when we were doing that service together in that first semester. And now she's at one of the most consistent sites we're going to find. She's over at with Mrs. Hips in the elementary school. And so we tried to balance those kids who had kind of those sites that didn't work out for whatever reason that first semester with sites that we were pretty certain were going to be pretty consistent this semester. And so we took care of, or tried to make sure Elena had a more consistent service opportunity this semester. So now I'll turn it over, and I'm not sure if either one of you cares who talks first. It might be easy for Emma to go first since I introduced her first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So as Mr. Cosman said, I was at Valera Caring for the first semester, which, was the hospice agency in Akron, and that was mostly administrative work. But what was really cool about that was it was an opportunity for me to see like behind the scenes, the important work that people do, making sure that the hospice patients and the nurses have everything they need in order to function and help the people in the way that they need to. And this semester I'm at Kent Social Services, and I'm really enjoying my time there because it's more of an opportunity for me to get to spend more time with the people that I'm like directly helping. And it's really cool to see your direct impact on people and how just being there for a couple hours a week can really help them out so much. They really rely on us to be there, consistently 2 times a week to get the food ready, bring in donations, organize everything. We're currently reorganizing their entire pantry, and it's been taking us, 3 weeks so far, and we're still going because they're getting a whole remodeling done, and that's a part of our site project too, is raising money for that remodeling. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out, and we're going to be there as they're finishing it up, and that'll be really cool. And it'll be great for them to be able to have more space for the donations and get it out to more people. And I really enjoy being there and seeing how much of an impact we can make with just our little time and little energy. And we really are putting so much into it. And I am going there today, so I'm looking forward to that. So my plans for college are that it's kind of difficult because I've only heard back from 2 of the 8 schools. Right now, I think I'm looking at OSU as one of my top schools. I got into the honors program there and also the School of Music. So I would double major in mathematics and a music major with a major in like performing arts. And I hope to continue service in the future all throughout college because service learning has showed me how big of an importance it is and how much it meant to me to be able to help other people. Thank you.
And then my name is Elena, and as Mr. Cosman kind of shared already, my first semester service was all over the place a little bit, but it worked out really well because I got to meet so many different people and help out in so many different areas. And it was just a really neat experience because where I first was at Stewart's Caring Place, it was a wonderful facility, but as he also shared, they were in the middle of moving new locations. So my 2 times I spent there were mainly helping move boxes around and kind of unpack. So I really didn't get a lot of experience when it came to the facility and what they offer, but I was able to see the actual place and the people there. So that was really nice. And it definitely took some adjusting to get used to kind of every week being somewhere new. But once I got the hang of it, it was really powerful. And I was able to see what other students in my classes were doing and just overall in the community, what people were doing and do some remote service. And so it really prepared me for this semester because I had a multitude of different experiences and I served in food banks and pantries, park cleanups, just anything you can think. I probably at one point did it last semester. This semester, I'm at the old middle school working with 3rd and 4th grade special education. And that is something that's just right up my alley. I love little kids. I love kind of seeing the behind the scenes of teaching. And growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. I'm taking a slightly different route, I think. But regardless, it's really cool to see these kids and what motivates them. Like every day, their favorite thing is to see what's for lunch, and they will talk about it the rest of the day. Like that's their motivation for doing their work, and it's so cute. And just reading their books and playing games, all of that, they get so excited about. So it's taught me to kind of take a step back and just be excited about what's happening right now. Because I feel like me and so many of you like get so wrapped up in what's happening next week or the week after. And it's being at a consistent site has helped me to kind of like zone in and just be with those kids. So it's been very powerful and amazing. And they're all so sweet. And I'm so excited to see them today too. So in another hour, I'll be able to go and read with them and play. And it's really been a cool experience. As far as my plans post high school, I am planning on majoring in psychology. I'm thinking of going like the clinical and kind of counseling route, but we'll see. I might go into education with it. And as far as colleges, yesterday at work, I actually got accepted into one of my top schools. So I'm so excited and I'm planning to go there probably. It's University of California, Santa Barbara. So super excited. And yeah, it's a very nice thing to kind of have everything falling into place. So with all the chaos, it is kind of nice because things are starting to become a little more normal, or at least like my path is becoming a little more clear. So it's like a weight off my shoulders, and service in general has been amazing. I do plan to carry on and serve throughout life, and through my career with psychology, I plan to give back and help others kind of realign and get recentered with them so they can go out and serve too. So yeah.
Well, that is awesome. How wonderful to hear that one of your top choices has come through for you. That's really exciting. And of course, California, that area of California will not have the winters like we have here. So I hope you enjoy the beach if that's where you end up going.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to show my t-shirt because today we are celebrating Playhouse Square. So I know when we were having the Bob DiBiasio here with the Indians, we had several people in Team Regalia. So I'm showing my colors today. Allie Miller is joining with us this morning from Playhouse Square. Allie actually is well acquainted with Rotary. Her dad, I believe, is a member of the Akron Rotary Club. And Allie is a professional dealing with marketing and sales, and has worked at the at the Cleveland Playhouse for a number of years. So Allie, would you please unmute and let's see what we have going on this morning.
Yeah, so I am joined by Chris Meyers. He is our group sales manager at Playhouse Square. He is going to start us off with kind of what has transpired since a year ago at Playhouse Square and in the larger theater industry. So Chris, if you want to take it away.
Well, thank you, everybody. Sorry for being a minute or two late. I just got tied up at my son's school. Before we start, I was just wondering, how many season ticket holders? Do we have any season ticket holders on the call today? Okay, so we got a couple. There we go. Perfect. So wanted to talk, I'll take the first part of this conversation and talk about what happened. Last week we actually, I don't want to say celebrated, I want to say more acknowledge what happened a year ago. Prior to that time, we were flying high at Playhouse Square. We were doing great. We were having sold out shows. We were just welcoming the show Jesus Christ Superstar in town, which was almost sold out. We were looking forward to a summer engagement with Frozen, which we knew that was going to sell out quickly. And then even in the fall, we had plans for Hamilton to come in for the return of Hamilton, and we knew that was going to sell out. Well, then all of a sudden, the Wednesday in March, I think it was March 12th, is the day that everything changed. Obviously, everybody's world got turned upside down. Playhouse Square is no different than anybody. We were fortunate in, like I said, is Jesus Christ Superstar just came in, and we actually did something different on this tour stop with Jesus Christ Superstar. We got with their composers and the main directors and producers of the show and said, hey, what happens if we added members to the orchestra? And we said, what happens if we added 30, I think it was 34 members to the orchestra, and we put them out into the audience. And when, instead of just being down in the pit, we put them out in the audience and made it more of a surround sound. And so we were the only place in the country, or the only tour stop, that was going to do this. So ironically, we had all the what I refer to them as the bigwigs, the main people from the show, coming in from New York and around the world, coming in to see the show and to see how it played out. And just by chance, that was right when obviously all the conversation started. And at that time, we they were getting in the huddles, like during intermission, they were off to the side. Some people said, yeah, we noticed that there was a big powwow going on the side. I was like, yeah, they were talking about what to do. And it came pretty clear, pretty evident, hey, we're going to shut down. We need to shut down. But we didn't know if it was going to be shut down for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or maybe a month. So we decided at first just to say, hey, let's just take the whole run of Jesus Christ Superstar and postpone that. And we'll move that and we'll deal with that later. But we still had plans this time last year for our Blue Man Group that was in April. My Fair Lady was in May, and even Cats in June, and then Frozen. It wasn't until probably about mid-May that we kind of really, we were starting to cancel things a month at a time after this. But once mid-May hit, we had to really take a look and say, what's going on with everything, looking at down the way. And that's when we had to make a tough decision about Frozen. We first tried to delay Frozen, postpone it by a few weeks. Then we finally had to cancel it. Or then we had to also, unfortunately, had to cancel Hamilton. So those were the big things. And then it just started going, because a lot of people ask, hey, well, once we get the clearance, at that time it was like, hey, once we get the clearance, we can be back up and running quickly. And the answer is actually no, you can't. The actors and the shows are very much like baseball. If you guys remember baseball, or an athlete, baseball started their spring training last year, then they had to stop it. And then they said, okay, we're going to come back. And I think it was July, August time. But they just couldn't come back and say, hey, we're going to come back on this date and we're going to start playing the next day and start playing real games. They had to go into spring training. So when we said the shows were coming back, they were going to have to do the same thing. They just couldn't come back on, we couldn't say, hey, today's Wednesday. Hey, on Monday or Tuesday next week, we're going to start shows, and they could be ready to go. They needed to get their voices back. They needed to get into shape. They needed costumes. In fact, we've heard from a few people, they still need to go, they would need to go in the costumes because obviously a few actors probably put on a few pounds throughout the pandemic. So it was going to be a more longer process. And also too, then we kind of had to look at show by show on what was going to be able to come back quicker. And we take a show like Jesus Christ Superstar, who already had a cast, who had a costumes, who had a set, who had everything. They would have probably been one of the first ones to come back, and they probably will still be the first ones to come back. But a show that's like a Wicked or a Lion King, they'll also be early able to come back because they've got an advantage on the big ones, the big shows, where they can go into a theater and they're going to be able to sit down for a while. And when I say sit down, they'll come to Playhouse Square. Instead of being here for a week, they'll be here for 4, 5, 6 weeks. So they don't have to worry about the travel as much as other shows. The ones that are going to be the harder ones or the tougher ones to get back onto the road when we do get back up are going to be the ones kind of like the show Ain't Too Proud or Moulin Rouge, who really didn't have the costume set or the scenery set. They have to kind of create that from scratch. And that's going to take time. That's probably going to take them 4 to 5 months once they get the kind of the clearance to go back on the road. So that's what we kind of faced throughout this time, is like, how do we juggle that? And then also too, on that is not just to say, hey, guess what? You can come play Playhouse Square for 3 weeks, when we do get back up and running. But then they go, okay, well, that's the Ohio's, you got the Ohio guidelines, what you can do there. But what happens when we have to go to Pittsburgh the next week, or Charlotte the week after, or Atlanta the week after? We can't, the tours have to be able to stay a continuous time throughout the whole time. They just can't go and say, we're going to play Cleveland for 3 weeks, then we're going to take a 3-week break, and then go play somewhere else for 3 weeks, and then go play somewhere else for 1 week, and so forth. So that's some of the challenges that we've faced here. And it wasn't just us, it's every theater across the country that has faced this challenge throughout the whole time. But hopefully now we're actually starting to see the end of it, or see the coming out on the other side, I should say. And I'll let Allie, turn it over to Allie to talk about a few things that we worked on throughout the time. And then also an exciting news today that no one else knows about yet. So go ahead, Allie.
Yeah, so with the closure, essentially having been down for a year, we haven't had a live performance at Playhouse Square in a year and a couple of days. March 11th was our last performance of Jesus Christ Superstar. At that point in time, they loaded up the semi trucks, the actors flew home, the set is gone. In total, we've had to cancel over 1,100 performances at Playhouse Square. This equates to about $7 million that we've lost out on in revenue. And that's just the portion that we would keep. There's obviously more that goes to the actors and the producers and things like that. So $7 million, that equates to about 1 million tickets that were not sold last year. So, 1 million people in the greater Cleveland area did not get to experience Playhouse Square. So even though that has not happened, we've been very busy behind the scenes fundraising, reaching out to people. We're currently in the midst of a donation campaign called Interlude. Interlude is a musical term for a brief pause in the middle of a movement. That's what this is. We are in the middle of a brief pause at Playhouse Square. So we are currently reaching out to single ticket buyers, season ticket holders, people who are currently donors, asking for one-time donations to help with our operating costs. We've had to furlough and lay off 60% of our staff since the shutdown. So it's been tough for Playhouse Square. So we have been doing this donation campaign. But we are very, very excited that this morning we will be announcing our first live performance at Playhouse Square. In over a year, we are going to be announcing this morning that the Choir of Man will be returning to Playhouse Square this summer. Tickets will be on sale this morning at 11 a.m. We will be sending out emails. It'll be on social media, and they will be performing at Playhouse Square for 4 weeks this summer. If you're not familiar with Choir of Man, it is a group of lads, as they refer to themselves, from the UK, Ireland, Scotland, England. They perform in like a pub setting. And so they sing pub songs, they like drinking songs, they sing Broadway tunes. It's a very fun, very interactive group of men that it's like the perfect show to go on sale on St. Patrick's Day. So we are very, very excited about that. So 11 a.m. you can go online, you can give us a call, and we can sell you some tickets. We will be following social distance protocols. We will be seating in pods. There will be some more information once we actually announce that, but we are so excited that we're going to have something this summer to welcome people back to the district, spend time at our restaurants, spend time outside on the plaza, and see just a really fun, 90-minute show to brighten your spirits. So we're very excited about that. And then Chris, if you want to go into some of the educational stuff we've been doing, this year as well.
Yeah, and I'll just on top of that, the show is a 90-minute show. So our hope is that that people come down and have dinner prior to the show. And with it being in the summer, everybody's a little bit more lax, and obviously it's light until 9:30ish around that time of year. So we're hoping that everybody kind of partakes in maybe a drink after the show, because obviously a lot of our restaurants have had to either shut down or they've had to close up. They shut down couple, I think, had to shut down permanently. A couple have just shut down until we started to having shows come back. So hopefully we can get business and activity back in the district, which will be nice this summer. But a couple of things that, one major thing that really happened with the pandemic, obviously our stages have been dark and, our theaters have been dark, but we've been able to, on our education route, take it a different way. Probably last August, we were still getting calls from our teachers that would normally bring field trips down to Playhouse Square saying, we still want to come, but we can't. We're like, I know you can't come. Unfortunately, we can't. And they're like, we still want to do stuff. We still want to do things with you. So what we said, okay, how about if we flip it? And they're like, what do you mean by flipping it? And the thought was, instead of you coming down and seeing a show, what happens if we bring the show to you? And so we went out to all of our children's theater series shows, and we contracted with all of them to either, one, get the rights to if they've already had their production filmed, get the rights to it, or two, help pay to get the production filmed and to get the rights. And then we were able to take that information, plus we were able to make study guides and everything virtually and take it into a classroom. So a teacher could log in and basically have 5 to 6 lessons that they could do along with showing the kids the show. And they could show it if the kids were in the classroom or if the kids were hybrid and here on Zoom. We have it set up to where they could do either way. So it gave them a great teaching tool. But the most important thing is it kept the arts going. It kept the arts going in the kids. So that way it wasn't just, hey, the pandemic hit, sorry kids, we're not going, we're just going to stop the arts, so we kept it going. I think the last time I heard, I think we were close to 20,000 classrooms that have taken us up on the offer. We had a grant and a proposal with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Everybody in the 2nd and 5th grade, all their classrooms, they all got virtual every school in the Cleveland Municipal School District got free programming for their kids. So they had access to all the shows. We still even have a couple more coming up down this summer or in the spring and so forth. So it's really a great program, but it's one of those programs where we're able to take the, something bad, but look at it a different way and come back around. In fact, I mean, one of the other things is that we're looking at doing is on my end with the group, when I do group sales, and in fact, we're just starting this, Zoom. I didn't know Zoom existed this time last year. I had no clue. Then once I saw Zoom, I was like, oh my gosh. So this is going to change how we do things down in the future. Instead of trying to talk to somebody one-on-one or trying to make phone calls out to them, we're going to be able to do Zoom. We're going to be able to show videos. We're going to be able to show, have the producers and the directors of the cast of the shows actually record conversations prior to them coming into town, and then we can play it back to our group leaders or our season ticket holders. There'll be more of Zoom interaction. We've actually had a couple things for our season ticket holders. I'm not sure if the ones that are on here actually took advantage of it, but during Frozen in Hamilton, when they were supposed to be here, we actually did a Frozen week and we did a Hamilton week where we actually had people from the cast come on and actually do a talk, a live talk, one-on-one with the season ticket holders, where the season ticket holders could ask questions, the actors could talk about their history, and they actually performed a couple numbers on that. So it was really a different way. I mean, obviously, as you guys all know, we can't do things A, B, C, and D. We have to kind of do one thing this way, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But we've had to come up with some new ways on that. The last thing I'll do, and before we open up to question and answer, the one thing that we really that we've started prior to the shutdown, and we're going to continue it too. This is probably the one that's most dearest to my heart at Playhouse Square is we have a sensory program. We have a sensory, we've created some sensory programs for children or individuals on the spectrum. And one of the things we did about 2 years ago, we actually were able to have Lion King come in. And Lion King came in, and we actually took one of the shows that they had scheduled, and we said we want to make that a sensory friendly show. And so we did. So we had one show that was completely for the sensory audience, and not just for the individuals that are on the spectrum, but also for the families, because a lot of times the families, one, they won't come down to Playhouse Square because they'll be cautious on coming down or concerned on that, how are they going to be received and so forth along that lines. But two, a lot of times if they come down, they might only be able to come down and bring a brother or a sister or part of the family. So what we did, we just said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a whole show and open it up to this segment of the audience or of the public, and we lowered the ticket prices down to where now, instead of just bringing a brother and a sister, they were able to bring the whole family. They were able to bring grandma and grandpa and basically come to a theater as a family that they've never been able to do before. The show was great because it actually it kept the lights at a low level, but it also allowed in devices, iPads, sensory toys that we gave out. Anything that was great or that was there to keep the audience calm. They actually took a couple of the loud scenes or the loud sound effects and actually lowered them so that there was not a big shock factor. But that one day for Lion King, we put in over 2,200 families, individuals and families to come down. Like I said, a lot been very first time they've ever been to Playhouse Square. I had people coming up to me that day and saying, we never thought we could come to Playhouse Square. We never thought we would be welcomed, or we weren't sure how we were going to be received. Well, now we know we can come to Playhouse Square. I was sitting with my son and across the aisle, I mean, my favorite story to tell, across the aisle was this lady, she's probably 16, 17 years old. And when they started the music and they started the songs, she sang every word to every song at the top of her lungs, and was just, and everybody around us, just to show you the idea or give you a concept of the show, everybody around her, all the parents just kind of looked at each other and kind of looked, and all had the same look on the face, like, hey, is she bothering, is she hurting anybody, is she having fun? And we all kind of like shrugged our shoulders and like did this, and we just let her go, and she had a blast that whole day. But it was just fun because that's what it was there for. It was there to have fun. Nobody got up to get the house manager. Nobody complained, and everybody just basically enjoyed listening to her sing every song. But that's what it was for. And when she walked out with a smile on her face. So that was what the day was for, right there. So I just want to kind of throw it out to see if there's any questions that anybody might have.
Well, I have one right away, and that is, what was the impetus of that sensory program? Who brought that up? Where from?
Lion King has done that over the years. Probably, I mean, we've done it on a smaller scale with some of our children's theater shows. We've also, Great Lakes Theater has done it for Christmas Carol. And we actually, our director of education, Daniel Hahn, came from Great Lakes. So he brought over some of the concepts on that. And then we partnered with Disney. In fact, I saw my family's in that, is in that area, and my son's on the spectrum. And we actually went to Pittsburgh probably about 7, 8 years ago, to Playhouse Square, sent us down, my family down to Pittsburgh to see what it was like. And I just remember when we got down to Pittsburgh, we were kind of rushing. We turned the corner to the theater, and my son's name's Nick. And all of a sudden, as soon as we got in line, we looked around and we're like, oh my gosh, there's 2,500 Nicks, in the audience. We felt so relieved. And on top of what I said before about the show, we also reach out to our local community, our board of MMRDD, the Milestones organization, different organizations in the Cleveland area to help volunteer. So instead of just having our regular Red Coat volunteers, we probably have about another 50 to 60 volunteers from other organizations, and they come in and they train our Red Coats, they train our staff on how to, not just the Red Coats, our ushers, but also the people doing the concessions, the ticket takers, the parking attendants, everything. they train them on what it's going to be like that day, and it went off without a hitch. In fact, I had one lady who's our VP of development. She's probably been at Playhouse Square now for 25 years. She said by far this was the number one day in her career at Playhouse Square, her favorite day. So it was
Well,
just, it was great. So,
Consider doing it again. I
oh,
think
we
it-
are. In fact, we actually had plans for Frozen. We had, when Frozen was going to play, we had a sensory show ready to go for Frozen, but unfortunately we had to cancel that. So Frozen, Lion King does it, Frozen does it, Wicked does it, and I think there's one or two others that are now considering. The thing is, you have to kind of have the right show for it. You can't have a drama. I mean, unfortunately, you've got to have a lot of music. It's got to be very recognizable music. So Disney's been a forefront, been a leader in this area, but it's you got to have the right area or the right show. You can't bring in a really heavy drama and do it. So, but it's truly, it's one of those that you just sit there and it takes your breath away to see that. So, and just to see the smiles on the faces, I told someone, I looked around that day and I was like, I know where a lot of these people are from. And I'm like, I know these people. It's almost like a family. And I looked around, I'm like, yeah, I saw them. I see them when I go to therapies, take therapy services. I see them when I go to doctor's offices. I see them, but now I get to actually see them have fun. We all go to the theater, we all go to places, and we all have fun. I never see these families there, but that was the day I got to see them there at having fun that day. Any other questions that someone has?
I'll jump in. So a couple things. One is, again, thanks for what you're doing on the area of the sensory presentations, because in Hudson, our schools actually have a very large population of special needs kids. So I'll pass it on to our director of special needs to make sure that maybe we could tie in the future. Yeah. So I did get the notification that Jesus Christ Superstar and My Fair Lady are rescheduled for next year. So any thought when the performances might start again of the other plays?
Yeah, well, obviously, as Ali says, we're going to start with the social distance of the Choir of Man, and that was going to be basically in that one, it'll be in the Ohio Theater, which seats about 1,000 people. But we're looking to only have about a full crowd. When we say a full house that day, it'll only be about 250 people. So obviously that's where we can separate and spread them out. For the big Broadway shows, we're looking at the fall. We're going to announce our next set of shows come up here on April 7th. And on that day, those shows, we're looking at the October, November-ish time frame is when we can start. The one thing that I will tell you there that we need to do on that one, we need to sit side by side on that. For us to host a Broadway show and for a show to actually even put the key in the ignition before to leave New York, they need to know that we're going to play to full houses. Unfortunately, it's not financial for them or for Playhouse Square if we play to a 30% crowd or a 40% crowd. We need to play to 95 to 100% crowd. So we need to be shoulder to shoulder, and that's where we keep a very close eye on what's going on with the pandemic and also with the vaccines and everything else. What are going to be the protocols when you get here? We don't know yet. We are working on it. That's part of the reason why we're doing Choir of Man, is to kind of work through some protocols so that we can kind of test things out and see how things go and see what works best on that end. But when it comes to the Broadway shows, you'll get more information from us than you probably even want to know on everything before you step foot. I refer to it as, no one ever likes to go to the dentist, really. Everybody, we don't want to make that what you're feeling come to Playhouse Square. Our goal is going to make you feel comfortable, because you could come see the first show of the season, which could be the best show in the world. But if you're not going to be comfortable coming to it, I don't care what show it is, you're not going to like it. You're not going to enjoy it. So our goal is to make you feel comfortable before you guys even, before you put that key in the ignition in the car to come down. You got to feel safe before you come down. So that's our plan. That's our goal. But April 7th is our next date, and that will announce shows all the way through. Allie, help me out. I think we're going to
The
go through
summer of 22.
Summer of 22.
Yeah. And I'll also add in that this is, not an independent decision that we're making. We are going to be guided by Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals experts to help create our, health and safety plans. And I will also add that Chris is actually on the Broadway League group sales co-chair, and our CEO and president, Gina Vernici, is also the road vice chair for the Broadway League. So these are not independent decisions that we're making. We're very much on the pulse of what is happening both across the country and in New York City. And New York City's in the same boat. They can't have, these Broadway shows unless they seat at 100% capacity, especially because those theaters are much smaller than ours. So, this is definitely, it's an industry-wide, countrywide effort to get us back on our feet. We're all there to help all the other, performing arts centers across the country get Broadway back. It's been a very, for me, it's been the longest I've gone without seeing a Broadway show since like 2012. So we're very, very excited to be able to start getting the ball rolling to, have something to look forward to.
And also keep in mind, not only that we're looking at talking to other theaters across the country and then obviously New York, but they're actually watching shows around the world. Australia's actually opened up a few shows. There's a Lion King, there's a Come From Away. I think there's a Frozen going on down in there, and they're playing to full houses. So we're watching how they're doing it, and getting that. I remember back about 6 months ago, Seoul, South Korea actually had a tour, Phantom of the Opera playing, and they were really watching the dynamics or the logistics on how that was happening. And they're taking all this in stride and learning from this and saying, hey, if they're doing it this way, how can we apply it this way? And so forth. So it's not just us watching here in Ohio or even North America, but we're watching stuff from around the world. And we're going to take it. And once our shows come back, we're going to apply those same protocols when it comes into our theaters.
So just two quick suggestions. Go ahead, George.
Do you think that virtual performances will be part of the new model for theater?
For the big Broadway shows, no. The big Broadway shows, because part of the ambiance of seeing a Broadway show is to see it in person. It's great to see something here, on a maybe a scene or maybe a concert, a one-person concert. Jim Brickman has done a couple concerts. Dave Koz has done a couple concerts with us. But when you're talking the big Lion King shows or all that, watching it on the computer screen compared to watching it in a theater, there's no difference. There's no similarities. Obviously, it's the same show, but it's the aspect of just being there in person. We actually had a call with a producer of Disney and also the producer of Wicked, and they said that there is no plans for them to put anything on virtually. Like I said, they might do a talk back or something along that lines virtually, but they won't put their stuff on virtually to where hey, let's log in to watch Lion King today. Let's log into here. A couple weeks ago, I think we did a reunion of the cast of Lion King, where they had the original cast get back on and a Zoom call in this format right here. And that's really about what you're going to see from a show, but not the actual show itself. So,
Chris, can you talk to the physical plant? I know the theaters are there, but you guys own other buildings that provide rental income to maintain this. I think this is unique in the country. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, honestly, real estate is our number one venture at Playhouse Square. Everybody thinks the shows and the theaters are our number one aspect. It's not. Real estate is actually our number one. We own, well, actually, we own the Lumen building that is across the street from us. That the new apartment building that just went up. I think it's 34 floors, and we're putting tenants in there. We own the Wyndham Hotel. I'm sorry, not the Wyndham anymore. It's the Crown Plaza Hotel that is across the street from Playhouse Square. We are also we also run the Halley building that's across the street. We also have properties around in the Cleveland area that we are also owners of. So it's not, that's what makes us different than a lot of other theaters, or actually any theater across the country, is we actually, real estate, like I said, is our number one venture. And it's just, it gives us a more diverse background to obviously when things like this happen, obviously you don't have the income from the theaters or the shows, but you might be able to help support, or at least, can fall back onto the real estate aspects of everything. So it's really, it's great. I mean, we also are very big in with all the other aspects of the district, that when something wants to come into the district, some type of business wants to come in, there's a huge vetting process. It's just not, hey, we have this storefront, who wants to come in and fill this storefront? And it's, they're very cautious. In fact, I remember when Green Rooster, a restaurant across the street, opened up, they came in and they went and they said, we need a place for breakfast. We don't have any breakfast place. We need a breakfast place, and we need a low end lunch plate. So they're very cautious to, especially if we're having people living in the district, to cater to every aspect that you can think of. You have your high-end restaurants, but you also have a restaurant where a family can go and get a meal, but not pay $50-$60 for a meal. It's totally everything. So yeah, it's a wide diversity there.
Or the outside? No, I think they're both in this room.
Yeah, Mimi. You're on mute, Mimi.
Mimi, you need to unmute.
All right. I'm wondering whether your youth training programs that have been affiliated with Playhouse Square, what's the status of some of those things that go on in the background from the perspective of the public, not so much perspective of the people that are participants?
Allie, do you want to take this one, or you want me?
Do you mean like working with the high schools for the Dazzle programs?
Oh.
So yeah, so we are still doing the Dazzle program. It is just this year it's been all virtual. There have been some like Zoom sessions with the students for still having those master classes, just in a very different format. We are still doing the Dazzle Awards this year. It will also be virtual. It will be a virtual presentation of, the students at the show, or that the schools are submitting for their, best actor and best actress. There will still be that selection process, and they will still go on to the Jimmy Awards. The Jimmy Awards are also going to be virtual this year. So they still get that opportunity to participate and compete in this, very prestigious award ceremony, but it's just in a different format this year. So those kinds of things are still happening. That's still very much part of the education the education department's mission. It's just happening in a different format this year, but we are still having it. It's still, something that is very near and dear to our hearts to have, this national high school, program to send them on to New York to compete for those scholarships and the opportunity to be seen by casting directors in New York City.
Actually, so those of you that don't know, the Dazzle Awards, that what we call it here in Northeast Ohio at Playhouse Square, it's a high school version of the Tony Awards. So, a high school could put on their production, and we actually have judges go out into the community or into the schools and watch their productions and rate them and grade them. And we bring them down in May for what we call the Dazzle Awards, which is a Tony Award show, but it's all high school kids. We actually bring a couple choreographers from New York in, and it's the show is like if you were just watching the Tony Awards. You know, you've got the kids up there doing song and dance numbers and so forth. The choreographers work with them for about a week on that. The one story I'd like to share on that is a few years ago, and this is a national program, so that like Ali says, we take the best actor and the best actress and we send them to New York for a week so that they can work with directors from the shows. And a few years ago, a lady from Charlotte, North Carolina, went to New York and with all the others, and they worked with the producers of Phantom of the Opera for a week. So they actually did rehearsals, you name it. It was like a week-long boot camp for them. And unfortunately, when she got there, she came down sick on the second day, and she had to go home. Well, a couple days after she got home, she got a phone call from this gentleman who was there and saw her on the first day of her thing in New York, and he was just a guy standing in the corner of the watching the camp that day. So he was just standing in the corner and he observed her. He was actually the producer of a show called Fun Home, which we had probably about 5 years ago. And he said, I want you to come back up. Once you get better, I want you to come back up to New York. He flew her back up to New York. And 4 months later, she was cast into a national production of Fun Home. So it kind of gives you an idea how she could go from sitting in a classroom, you know, in her school, going to her spring musical, to 6 months later being on a national tour. Just because of one person in the corner saw her perform that first day. And then, you know, like I said, unfortunately she got sick, but it was just show you the power of, you never know who's going to be in that corner.
Well, how awesome was that? I really want to thank you for participating with us today. This was incredible. And we so want to get back into your theaters. We're missing it terribly. And I'll tell you, you are right. Hamilton on the Disney Channel, it just wasn't the same. Yeah. It just was not the same as sitting there right next to your grandchild who is so darn excited to just be there in the first place. So thank you again for everything that you're doing to keep our theater district alive and well. And it's such a gem. I mean, people don't realize just what we have right here in our backyard. Our theater district is bigger than Chicago, bigger than San Francisco, bigger than anything else outside of New York. So how much fun is that? So again, thank you for coming and answering our questions and sharing the good news with us, that there at least is something coming this summer.
Well, Marilyn, I have to say real quick is Allie and I have done a few of these for other Rotary clubs or Kiwanis clubs throughout the shutdown. This is the first one we actually got to talk fun stuff. You know, this is the first one that we actually got. Before then, it was here's what we're doing during the shutdown. We don't know when. We don't know. We're not sure here. We don't have an end in sight. Well, this is the first time we actually got to talk about the end in sight per se. So thank you for having us. Sure.
Well, it sounds like you're tired of talking about deep thing. You know what I mean? Okay.
Exactly.
Next week, we will be hosting Dahlia Fisher from the Maltz Museum in Cleveland. They have an absolutely terrific new exhibit currently running that's putting a spotlight on Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is receiving excellent reviews in the community, and so this is going to be really, really fun. Now, we're going to change things up for the last day of the month. We were originally scheduled to hear from the Cleveland Orchestra, but we're going to scoot them until a little later in the season when they'll be able to give us some real news about what's happening at Blossom. We're going to push that, but instead we'll be hearing about something that is very current, very timely, a new project that we've just become aware of within the last month. There's a for sale sign that recently popped up on Hudson Drive, south of Terex and north of Seasons Road. It involves a plot of land surrounding the O'Brien Cemetery. It's about 55 acres, and it's bordered on the east by Hudson Drive and on the west by the unused rail line that we're hoping will become the multi-use trail, Veterans Trail, linking Hudson to Akron. through 5 different communities. Now, this is a pretty wild and wet area that has been favored by local birders and lovers of wildlife for quite some time. So our speaker on March 31st is Andy McDowell, the Vice President of the Western Field Operations for the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. So they're putting together a proposal to take this land and keep it wild. And so please mark your calendars. We're really, really excited to have this. And we're going to close out today, as I normally do, talking about just a few things that have occurred in the past. In 1762, the first St. Patrick's Day Parade was held in New York City. In 1845, the rubber band was patented by Stephen Perry in London. And in 1901, an art show in Paris featured 71 Vincent van Gogh paintings in a single exhibit, and it caused an absolute sensation. Unfortunately, 11 years after Vincent van Gogh had died. And so with that thought today, let's appreciate what we have. Let's appreciate the artists that we have in theater as well as the other arts. And so on that, we're going to close our meeting. And thank you so much to Chris and Allie for being with us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.